Has Pam Anderson really seen Liam Neeson's Naked Gun? Hello everyone, I'm Sarah from Everyday Starlet. Welcome to my channel. I make videos to inspire you to be the star of your own life. Today I want to talk about the new possible couple, and that is Pam Anderson and Liam Neeson. Apparently they did a movie together. It's a kind of remake of the classic Naked Gun movies. They've been promoting the movie and there's rumors that they're a real life couple. And we don't know a ton about them, whether they're even really a couple. They haven't confirmed it. These are just rumors. I do think it brings up some interesting topics that I kind of wanted to discuss. So before I get started, a few disclaimers. First of all, apologies for the feedback. Still having a heat wave here, and I have to keep the AC on because my camera overheats, so apologies if there's any feedback. Also, like I say in all my videos, I do not know anybody in this video personally. I don't know what anybody is like behind closed doors, so I am simply basing my analysis on the public information that is available to everyone. At the end of the day, the stuff I'm talking about isn't really about the celebrity. It's actually about the life lessons that we can take from these celebrities and their public images and their public personas, and the lessons that we can take into our everyday lives so we can have happier, healthier lives and relationships. So let's talk about Pam Anderson and Liam Neeson. So when I first heard people saying that they were a couple, I thought it was confirmed. Apparently they, at least as of filming this, they have not confirmed or denied really that they're a couple, but they did do a movie together. They are currently promoting it. So the only information we actually have about their relationship is really their promotions for the movie. Now, there's some people that are wondering if this rumored romance between Pam Anderson and Liam Neeson is PR for the movie. It's just to get attention because they don't know if the movie's gonna do very well. I have to admit, I am very curious to see what the younger generation is gonna think of kind of the dry humor of the Naked Gun franchise, but you know, that's a whole separate conversation. But anytime you see a couple, like especially co-stars that are promoting a movie and you hear like rumors that they're a couple that are unconfirmed and stuff, I gotta be honest, my mind always goes to it's a PR relationship. Like that's kind of, at this point in my life, that's the default setting. I'm just assuming that it's PR. I watched a lot of like interviews and things they were doing to promo the movie. It was interesting because their interactions with each other felt very awkward and also very kind of like mellow. And I was kind of underwhelmed, and I love Pam, I really do. I don't know that much about Liam Neeson, but I do really love Pam. I don't know, I just felt like their interactions were a little awkward. So my first thought was like, okay, I don't think they're really a couple because they don't seem super relaxed and comfortable with each other, but I think some of that might just be their personalities. I also started to think that, okay, if they are a real life couple, but they know that they have to promote this movie together, but they're still in a new relationship and it is real, I could see where that could lead to awkwardness too. So I started to realize that some of the awkwardness I was seeing with them in interviews, like it could go either way, really. But it was interesting because in a lot of the interviews that Pam and Liam were doing together, and they were talking about the Naked Gun movie that they're doing and how it's like, it's a comedy and how the world really just needs like a good lighthearted comedy right now. And I agree, I absolutely agree, because I do feel like, I know that's something a lot of young people particularly don't want to hear. You can't spend your entire life freaked out about every little thing, like every little cause, every little thing that you are in favor of or against or something. If you spend your whole life and every ounce of your existence getting upset over everything and taking everything so seriously and taking life so seriously, it's a recipe for just burning yourself out. And I know it can be hard, like especially if you're passionate about certain issues or every issue or something, it can be really hard to feel like, well, I can't rest because this is going on and this problem is going on. You have to. Like, you have to find moments in your life, no matter how frustrated you are with anything that's going on in the world, socially, politically, anything, you have to find moments where you can actually like find some peace of mind. Like, you have to find some moments where you can relax and, dare I say, even find pleasure in life. You need some of those moments, and that's gonna look different for everybody. There's a reason why like the phrase like touch grass kind of become a catchphrase, like when somebody's freaking out about someone and someone's like, touch grass. It's because, first of all, putting your feet in the grass is actually very grounding, and it's also connecting to nature, which isn't relaxing for everybody, but it is for many people. But you know, if you spend your whole life like freaking out about every little thing and being angry about this thing that's going on or that thing that's going on, or just, you know, if your whole life is just about being angry and ranting about things or freaking out about every little thing that's going on, and I realize that there's a lot going on in the world and there's plenty of things going on in the world to panic about, but you need to take moments to connect to nature, hug a loved one, play with your kids or play with your pets, or watch a comforting movie or TV show, whether it be something that's funny or just something that makes you feel comforted, or like sit down and have a nice meal with friends. An activity, a healthy activity that you find pleasure in. I'm not talking about sinking into like depression or anything, because if you're really stressed, it can be really easy to sink into one drink becomes a dozen or something like that. Like, I'm not talking about that, but like, you have to find some joys and pleasures in life, and you can't spend your whole life freaking out about every little thing. I know, especially when you're young, I feel like you want to take on the world and you want to save the world, and you want the world to be what you think it should be, and you have this idealized view of the world. And like, I know that feeling. I mean, I think most of us have been young at one point and know what that feeling is like. But oh, you have to find moments of joy and pleasure and comfort and safety, and like, you have to find those moments in life, because if you are constantly angry and constantly freaked out and constantly fighting over things and watching the news, getting stressed out and watching social media and fighting with people on social media, it's gonna burn you out. And I just, as somebody older who's been stressed out and anxious a lot of her life, things are never going to be perfect. Things are never going to be calm. There's always going to be problems in the world, and there's always going to be things to stress about. But you don't have to take on all the burdens and all the stress of the world yourself. I know sometimes it feels like that, but you don't. And you have to be able to find joy and pleasure and laughter, and you have to do that, or else you're just going to burn yourself out if you spend your whole life in, you know, anxiety and anger and frustration and sadness and stuff. Like, you need all of the human emotions in order to survive in the world. So yeah, I thought that was a good message. But in the same way that Pam and Liam have been doing a lot of interviews saying that, you know, the Naked Gun movie being a comedy is like, the world needs comedy right now, because, you know, everybody really does need to laugh and stuff. And while I fully agree with that, I also feel like this potential romance, and again, we don't know if it's 100% confirmed, but this potential romance between Pam and Liam is kind of the celebrity couple that we need right now. Whether it's real or whether it's not, and I'm a little skeptical. Most celebrity relationships are PR relationships, and you know, I'll get into some of the reasons why I don't necessarily think that they're gonna make it, but I think they're both people that the majority of the world root for. You know, I mean, I love Pam. I'm not saying that she's perfect. I'm not saying she's above scrutiny, and you know, I think she's beautifully flawed in many ways, but she's somebody you root for. I feel like, I mean, she's had a lot of bad relationships, and I'm not saying that, you know, she hasn't had a hand in some of them and things like that, but I do feel like she's somebody who, you know, every time I've ever seen her interviewed, she seems like a genuinely good person. You know, again, not perfect, but she does seem like a genuinely good person. And I think that people really want to root for her. You know, she's been exploited as a sex symbol, and she's reinvented herself so many times, and we know she's been in toxic relationships, and she's raised her kids. She's been through so many phases in her life, and I think people are really rooting for her to find love. And in the same with Liam Neeson, we all know of him as being, you know, a widow who tragically lost his wife, and I don't really know that much about Liam Neeson other than the fact that he's an amazing actor, but I don't really feel like you hear a lot of drama about him. So he is someone who I think people, they root for. You wanna think that the widowed bachelor can find love again. You know what I mean? Like, there are a couple that I think people are rooting for individually. Them together is kind of something that I think a lot of us can collectively root for. You know, whether it's real or not, I do think that they're a couple that the world kind of, everybody wants to see both of them happy, so if they can both be happy with each other, why not? Again, I'm not totally sold that they're real, but I think people want good things for both of them. One thing that's interesting about the Pam Anderson, Liam Neeson rumored relationship is I think a lot of people are commenting it's nice to see an older man choose a woman who is not some young thing. And again, Pam is younger than Liam Neeson, but I think once you get over a certain age, like particularly 40s, I'd say definitely 50s and over, like at a certain point it's like, it doesn't feel inappropriate when there's an age gap, because it's like everybody's an adult. You know, everybody's lived life and lived enough life so that you don't necessarily feel like an age gap becomes a big power imbalance like it does when you've got like younger people involved that really haven't had enough life experience or enough time to be an adult to really like experience life and and know the red flags and things like that. Not to say that people can't ignore red flags at any age, but when you see people that are, you know, I'd say like, you know, 40s, definitely 50s and over, there's no like weird, like, ooh, this person is, you know, newly an adult type of thing. I think we all want to believe that love doesn't just exist in our teens and 20s. And whether that be that people are single or divorced or widowed or anything, and then they find love again in their older years, or whether it be people have just been single for a long time and they find love in their older years, I think that there's a lot of people that want to believe that there is potential to find love at any age. And I think a lot of people really want to believe that. And so when you see a couple like, say, Pam and Liam, it gives you a little bit of hope that like, oh, okay, you can, you know, when you're in your, you know, 50s, 60s, 70s, you can still find love and you can still find each other attractive and things like that. So I mean, I think that that's hopeful for people who maybe are single later in their life, but I also think that that's an important thing that like married couples need to hear. I know there's this big push for like traditional family values and this idea of, you know, they're trying to kind of go back to the like marry young and stay together forever. And you know, look, I don't judge anybody if that happens to be their path. I don't think that's everybody's path, but you know, I think we're all here to live a different path. But I also find it odd that the people pushing this idea of like traditional relationships, or you know, with the idea of like getting married young and staying together for a long time, it seems to be that those are also the people that push this message that like men are only attracted to women between the ages of like 18 and 25. Let's be real, they only say 18 because that's legal, which is disturbing, but that's a whole other conversation. And I understand that unfortunately too many people in that age range don't really think long term. I realize is part of the reason why people want to push people at that age into doing things the way that they want them to do it, because they're more easily manipulated. But it also means that that's an age range when you're not necessarily going to make the best decision, especially a decision that's going to affect the rest of your life. But again, that's another conversation. I've always found it to be a conflicting idea, because if you tell women that like men are only going to be attracted to you or any woman between the ages of 18 to 25, so like you better find a husband between the ages of 18 to 25 or else men aren't going to want you because men will keep getting older. I mean, again, this, I don't believe this, but this is the message. As men get older, they're still going to go for that age range. So basically what you're telling a woman is that if you do marry a man, like when you are between the ages of 18 to 25, because that's when he's attracted to you, but eventually, God willing, you're going to get older. I mean, so is he, but like, we don't really talk about this when it comes to men and age, but like for women, like you're gonna age. And if you stay married to this guy, you're gonna get older. You're gonna have kids, your body's gonna change, your looks are gonna change, possibly because of becoming a mother and possibly just because of the passage of time and things like that. And now you're legally tied to this guy who is not gonna find you attractive anymore because he only found you attractive between the ages of 18 to 25. And you're no longer between the ages of 18 to 25. You now have a few kids and your body has changed, your looks have changed. Now you're in your 40s, but this guy is still interested in women who are 18 to 25. So now, is he gonna be checking out the babysitter or your kids' friends or things like that, and you're now with him? No woman wants to sign up for that deal. Like, no woman wants to sign up for a life with a man who is only going to think that she's attractive like the day he married her, and then is never going to find her attractive again because her body changed, her looks changed, because that was inevitable. It was going to happen, of course, because that's life. I think women really want to believe that even if they do marry somebody young, that they want to be with a man who is going to love them and find them attractive and desirable through every stage in their life. So when you see a couple, a woman in her 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, whatever, who, whether she is single and meets a guy and is in love with him, or whether she's still with a man who still finds her attractive and desirable, I think it gives hope to all women, not just single women, but married women as well, that like, it is possible to be beautiful and loved and desired at any phase in life. And I think when we see older couples, like a potential couple between Pam Anderson and Liam Neeson, there is that renewed hope in women that like, yeah, we can move into different phases of our life. Even if we were seen as a sexy woman in, you know, in our youth, we can still be desired and sexy by men or the man in our life later in life. I mean, I think a lot of women want to believe that, because at the end of the day, it's like, why would you want to tie yourself to a man for life if you know he's only going to be attracted to you in that one little phase in your life, and the rest of your life you're going to be miserable because he's going to wish that you still looked like that, and he's going to keep desiring other women that are in that phase in their life, and he's never going to truly desire you as you move into other phases. That's not a good deal for women at all. I think that when you see older couples that get together, or even older couples that are still together but still feel like they're in love, it gives hope to all of us, and I think particularly women, because I think women are the most susceptible to feeling like they won't be loved as we grow, as we age, as we develop into other phases of our life. And we still want to be, you know, we still want to be considered beautiful and desirable at every phase. And so I do think that, as much as I'm not totally sold that the Pam-Liam relationship is real, I do think that it's a nice reminder for women especially, that you can still be considered beautiful and desirable at any phase in life. And you know, in my last video I talked a little bit about Sydney Sweeney and like why I feel like she's being pushed on us. Like she doesn't have that it factor, she doesn't have that star quality, she doesn't have that natural glow. Pam Anderson has it. She absolutely has it. Like Pam is magnetic. Any age that we've known her, this is at any level of being made up, you know, in different phases she's been in life. She's been in her, you know, her beach girl phase, she's been in her like rocker wife phase, she's been in her like gardening phase, like at every phase in her life. Like Pam, she has it. Like she has that it factor, she has that glow. And I talked in my Sydney Sweeney video about the difference between sort of like the male gaze and the female gaze, and like female celebrities who really exist for the male gaze and female celebrities who are kind of like for the girls. It's very rare for a female celebrity to be able to appeal to both a male and female audience. It's very tricky to do, but it can be pulled off. And I would say Pam really pulls that off. It's really rare to do. And I think one of the reasons that Pam really pulls it off is because, for one, Pam's a lot smarter than people give her credit for. She's also very humble. If you notice in interviews, Pam is very humble. She doesn't come across as somebody who has an ego. I think she carries herself with confidence. She knows what she's doing, but she doesn't come across with an arrogance. She has so much personality. She has so much personality that it's like even when she's being sexy, she definitely feels relatable to women. That's it's a really tricky thing to pull off, and I have to give Pam credit for that, because I do really think that she does that, and she does it well. Now, early on in her career, in her younger years, was she maybe a little bit more male gaze centered, and now as she's gotten older, she's become a little bit more female gaze centered? Yes. But I do think that she's pulled off a balance of that throughout her entire career. I just think at some phases she's been a little bit more male-centered, and at some phases she's been a little bit more female-centered. But I do think that, you know, Pam is a very rare celebrity who manages to really be able to appeal to both audiences. And I mean, I gotta give her props for that, because it's not common. So one of the things about the possible Pam-Liam relationship that I'm hearing people say is, I'm hearing some people say that they seem like such an odd pair. I've heard some people say, you know, she's such a free spirit and he seems so serious and things like that. I actually am gonna go out on a limb here and say I actually think that that's the best dynamic. I think for most people, the best dynamic is when the woman is more free-spirited and the man is more serious. Too often you see the reverse. Too often you see the woman has the structure, has the responsibility, has the seriousness, and the man is just all over the place. And I absolutely believe that it's better when the woman is more of a free spirit and the guy is more serious. I'm not saying that every relationship with that dynamic works perfectly, but I also did notice there was an interview promoting the movie with Liam and Pam. I thought it was interesting because Liam Neeson said that when he met Pam, one of the things he noticed about her was that she had so much presence. Like, she was so like there in the moment. She wasn't like all over the place, which shows that as much as we all know Pam is a very free spirit, she does have the ability to have like focus and structure in her life. Pam said one of the things that she really liked about Liam was that I forget the word she used exactly, but she was talking about how, you know, he was kind of able to like loosen up and kind of dance and whatever and stuff. And it seems like, at least the way Pam's describing, is that Liam Neeson is a relatively serious guy, but he does have the ability to kind of loosen up and have fun. That's an excellent sign, and I actually, to me, that was one of the biggest moments that I was like, okay, I think this might be able to work. Like, this relationship might work. I think the ideal scenario is if you have a woman who is a free spirit. She can be very much like in flow, and she can actually just sort of like relax and be fun and playful, but she does have the ability to tap into like structure, responsibility. She's not just like a complete flake, right? Because if she's a complete flake, like, I mean, nobody likes someone who's just a complete flake and can't focus and can't have any structure, because that's gonna be irritating to like anybody. But she's mostly in that flow, but she does have the ability to like be serious and be responsible and be an adult and things like that. Whereas in contrast, she's with a man who is like structured, responsible, like he has the like the masculine presence, the masculine strength, the masculine structure, but yet he's not so rigid that like he doesn't have any flexibility. Like he can't actually have fun. He can't actually loosen up ever. That's gonna just feel so like, it's gonna feel too stiff and rigid and stuff, because you tend to want the man to be strength, the strong one. I think that's the best dynamic. I just think those are the relationships that are gonna work the best. I mean, I don't know if Pam and Liam are actually a real relationship, and don't know if they're gonna last or anything, but I actually think that their dynamic of her being kind of a little bit more in flow and him being a little bit more rigid, I actually think that dynamic is probably the best. Like, I think that's where you're gonna get the strongest relationship, because again, neither one of them are like children or irresponsible or anything, and neither one of them are, I mean, they're both artists, they're both actors, they're both performers and things like that, so it's not like either one of them are just like so rigid and structured. So I mean, I feel like they both have the ability to kind of do both, but when you have a woman who tends to be a little bit more like in flow and a little bit more of a free spirit, and you have a guy that's just more like serious and structured, they both have the ability to kind of connect to some of the opposite side. I don't know, I really think that's the best dynamic, and when I started hearing them kind of describe each other that way, I was like, okay, there could be something here. Now, one thing that came up that I don't necessarily think is a red flag in Pam and Liam's relationship, but I have learned this lesson the hard way quite a few times, and so I want to impart this on you. One of the things that Pam and Liam were talking about a lot in their interviews with each other is that Liam would say that like, oh, Pam was, you know, baking for him, and you know, he made her this great sourdough bread and, you know, muffins and things like that and whatever, and Pam was like, oh my god, I love cooking, so I love to bake and things like that and whatever. As someone who loves to cook, who loves to bake, I have to say I've learned this lesson too many times. Don't bake for a man too early on in a relationship. Now, in Pam and Liam's case, I understand like they're working on set, you know, they're kind of on location, so Pam's kind of like baking in her free time, and she's like obviously probably baking for different co-stars. So I don't get the impression that Pam was like baking to impress him, to win him over. So I mean, I'm not saying that she's doing that to get him, or she was trying to like lure him with baked goods or anything like that. That's not what I'm saying. However, as someone who has baked for guys too soon in a relationship, I will tell you it comes across very needy, and it will either freak a guy out because he's gonna feel smothered, or he's gonna see you as desperate and he's gonna start taking advantage of you. It's not a good idea. And I say this again as somebody who loves to cook and loves to bake, but I have made the mistake of doing that for guys way too soon in the relationship, and it usually ends up being a disaster. Again, for various reasons. Either they take it that you're like desperate and coming on too strong and it freaks them out, or they just decide they're gonna take advantage of you. And you know, there's gonna be people, that's just the guys that you date. Well, it's been very consistent across the board. And again, I'm not saying that like once you're in a relationship with somebody that you can't like cook or bake or whatever or something like that. Like, I'm not discouraging anybody from doing that, but I think especially now with the whole kind of like trad wife kind of trend going on online and stuff, I want the young girls to know you can't cook and bake for a guy too early in the relationship. He should be doing for you. He should be proving himself to you. He should be showing up and doing things. I'm not saying he should be cooking and baking for you. I'm just saying that like he should be showing up and pursuing you. By you doing things like baking for him, it's throwing off the balance in an early relationship. You shouldn't be doing anything early on in the relationship. Like anything. I mean, like anything. Like, you shouldn't be pursuing him. You shouldn't be making moves. You shouldn't be making plans. I'm telling you, and this is years of experience dealing with men, and from working with men that I wasn't even dating, but just like observing these scenarios and observing guys I worked with and how they interacted with women that they were dealing with and stuff. Like, should not be doing anything for a man early on in a relationship. He should be doing for you. If he's not into you. And again, saying this as someone who loves to cook, loves to bake, and has done it too soon in a relationship, more times than I care to think about. I don't recommend it. Now, in like Pam and Liam's case, again, it does seem like this was something that like Pam just happened to be baking, and she was just like bringing in extra baked goods for like the people that she worked with and things like that. So I think that was a little different, and Pam doesn't come across like someone that has like an ulterior motive with things. I don't know. Again, I don't know her personally, but like if you are interested in a guy and you're like trying to make something happen with a guy, or you want something to happen with a guy, please do not bake for him too early in the relationship. It's telling you from experience, not a good move. I know it sounds counterintuitive because it seems like, oh, I want to show him that I'm a good cook, or I want to show him that I can be a nurturer, or I can care for him and whatever. Like, I mean, I know, believe me, I've deluded myself into thinking all of these things before. Not a good idea. And I already know there's going to be men that are going to be like, no, I'd love it if a woman baked for me. I'd love it if a woman cooked for me. Don't listen to men. Don't listen to men. Don't listen to if a man's like, I would love it if a woman cooked for me. Yeah, because you take advantage of her, but you're not going to love her more because she does for you. Because men don't love you more because of what you do for them. They don't. So again, in the Pam and Liam case, I don't necessarily know if like that was a huge factor or anything. I think he brought it up a lot in interviews, probably because it was a talking point to bring up in interviews. Normally I would find it a little suspicious if they were showing up as a couple, like not two people promoting a movie, because I do feel like him bringing that up, like she has a cooking show, it's an aspect of Pam that like the mainstream isn't all totally familiar with. So I think that it's nice of him to bring that up in interviews, because again, it shows a different side of Pam. It also kind of promotes her cooking show. Like from a PR perspective, I think that's nice that he brought it up. But if Pam and Liam were showing up as a couple and you asked the two of them like, hey, what did you like about this person or whatever, and he just started bringing up that like she was baking for him, I'd be like, ooh, he's just using her for whatever he can get. Like he doesn't actually care about her, and she's coming across kind of desperate. I'm not saying that that's what's actually happening with the two of them, but like that's what it would come across as, and that's where my brain would go just from my own my own experience, personal experience, and what I've witnessed in the world. So while I think them talking about it like from a PR standpoint was actually a good move, in real life, if you ask a guy like, what do you like about the woman you're with, and he basically just talks about everything that she does for him, bad sign. Bad sign. It probably means that she's desperate and he's using her for everything he can get. You know, it sounds cynical, but I've seen it. I've experienced it, and I've seen it too many times. So the Pam Liam thing actually brought up an interesting topic that I don't really see a lot of people talking about. No idea if this is like actually what's going on with Pam and Liam or anything, but it was just something that really caught my attention and started making me think about relationships. Pam is very openly a vegan. Liam, I tried doing some research. I don't think he is vegan. I looked it up and there was no evidence that he is. No idea what his stance is on veganism. No idea what his dietary restrictions are. I don't know anything about that. But I got to thinking about something I don't hear people talk about enough. This is probably going to be a controversial statement, but this is just something I've learned too much from personal experience. I don't think that people that have drastically different diets and dietary restrictions can work as a couple. And I'm not saying it can never work, but generally speaking, I don't think it's a good idea to get involved with people that have dramatically different like diets and dietary restrictions. And when I say diet, I'm not talking about like a diet fad. I'm talking about like the diet as in like the types of food that you eat. In the extreme case, like with Pam being a vegan, like talking about vegans and stuff, if you're vegan because of, you know, your moral stance on animals and things like that, like your choice, no judgment. And I appreciate people that are vegan or have that moral stance or something and don't push that on other people. Like I think that's good, and everyone's got to make their own decision about that morally. But I can't imagine being in a relationship with someone that didn't have the same moral stance on things that I did. And I'm not vegan, so like that's not my moral stance. But I can't imagine either like say being vegan and believing that not eating vegan is morally wrong, but then you get into a romantic relationship with someone that is doing the thing that you think is morally wrong. I also can't imagine like not being vegan getting into a relationship with somebody who was vegan and believed that eating animals was morally wrong. So I'm like, I'm in a relationship now with someone who believes that something that I do is morally wrong. It feels weird to me. Like, I don't know how people can do that. And I'm not saying when you're in a relationship you have to agree on everything or that you have to have the exact same stance on everything, because not likely you're gonna find another human being that thinks the exact same way on every issue as you do. But that said, if you really have a strong enough moral stance on something to completely change your lifestyle, I find it hard to fathom how you could get into a serious romantic relationship with somebody who didn't have that same moral stance, and then sit and watch that person do something that you yourself don't think is moral. As humans, food is such a huge part of our lives. I mean, it's part of our survival. It's also a huge part of our culture. I mean, just as humans, in every culture, there's some kind of like food that defines the culture. You know, it's such a big part of celebrations or gatherings that are good and bad. Like, food is such an important part of our lives as humans. Like, even when you choose not to eat food or choose what foods not to eat, it's still a huge part of our lives, of our lifestyles. Like, it's a huge thing, and I already know I'm gonna get the body shamers, and you're like, well, maybe it's a huge thing for you because you're whatever. I already know I'm gonna get that comment, but I don't care at this point. I've been dieting since I was 8 years old, so food has been a huge factor in my life, whether I was eating it or not eating it or something. And I have done so much work the past, like, I would say 5 years of like really deep, intense work on healing my relationship with food and healing how I feel about food, positive and negative, and everything like that. So some of this is coming from a place of like really having to do a lot of inner work on that stuff. Food is such a big part of just our lives as humans. Like, even if it's just eating for survival, I just really think that more people, when you're getting into a relationship, really need to look at whether or not you have compatible relationships with food, whether your dietary choices or restrictions, whether you're on the same page with these things. Because again, food is a big part of our everyday lives. It's a part of our gatherings and social events and cultures and things like that. It's such an important thing. I don't think it's something that we factor in to picking a partner that much, and I think we should. And I mean, it might be going out on a limb here, but I just think if people have like incompatible dietary restrictions, preferences, whatever, I just don't know if a long-term relationship is super possible. I'm not saying it can never be possible, but it makes things a lot more challenging, because I don't think that we really factor in, I mean, there's just some things in life that may seem really simple that are a huge part of our everyday existence that we overlook. And I think oftentimes we look at, when we're looking at relationships and compatibility, we look at the big things, what you think about marriage and what you think about kids, and I think all those things are important, but you don't tend to look at things like sleep, which we do every day, hopefully, sleep schedules and food restrictions, because those are things that, I mean, we need food every day in order to survive. Like, I would not be okay with being in a relationship with someone that was fasting. As someone who has just spent the last few years doing so much healing work on my relationship with food, somebody who had like a really erratic or bad relationship with food, like, I just don't feel like it would work for me in the same way that I feel like if somebody were to have done a lot of healing work on their, you know, alcoholism or something, and, you know, getting into a relationship with somebody that had a terrible relationship with alcohol would probably not be a good idea. You know, because food is something that we have to experience every day, I think it's something we should factor in. And, you know, sometimes it's as extreme as the, you know, a vegan versus a meat eater kind of thing, but I think sometimes it's just subtle things. So I know from my own experience, this was a big wake-up call for me. So with my ex-husband, he had a food allergy. It was a rare food allergy, and it was actually an allergy to a food that was a major staple in my diet when we met. And I knew he had this food allergy, so I was like very accommodating to the food allergy, and I will fully admit I did a lot more cooking for him early on in the relationship and throughout the whole relationship than I probably should have. But I really did change around like my whole way of cooking, and, you know, made so many adjustments to accommodate his food allergy, which I did because, like, you know, didn't want to kill him, which I think makes me a good person. I had this moment of realization where I was like, I never got 1 ounce of appreciation for that. Never a thank you. I did find myself being very passive aggressive and being very, like, kind of throwing it in there, like that I had to do so much and I had to do so much to accommodate it and stuff, because I was just looking for some kind of like a thank you, you know, some kind of appreciation, like, hey, I uprooted my entire way of cooking. I uprooted my entire way of eating, like, for you to accommodate you. It was this like, well, I can't help my food allergy. And it's like, yeah, I get that. Like, I understand that, but like, there needs to be some kind of appreciation for that. Like, there should be some kind of like, thank you for changing your whole life for me. I mean, I think it's another example, and there's probably many examples of times that I personally, or times that other women have changed their whole life just to accommodate a man and got nothing in return. But like, if there's anything that I know about things like food allergies, like if you love peanuts, I know that's probably the most common food allergy out there, and you love peanuts, like if you're always eating peanuts and peanut butter and things like that so that it's in your house, but also you're eating it, you consume it, like, you know, on your breath or something, like you can't just like kiss your partner if they're allergic to peanuts, because it could kill them. I'm not necessarily saying that, you know, if you meet someone who you love more than peanut butter, by all means be with them. Like, I'm not telling you to not be with someone that has a food allergy, and I'm not telling you to, you know, choose food over your partner or anything like that. But it's something you have to factor in, that like, if you were now changing your entire lifestyle to accommodate another person, like, is that person going to appreciate that you've now changed your entire lifestyle to accommodate them? And if they don't, you're probably going to resent them for really readjusting your life to accommodate them. I mean, I just think that it's something you have to factor in. And again, I'm not at all saying that people with food allergies shouldn't deserve love and you shouldn't make an effort to try to not kill your partner. But it's just something that, like, as someone who spent, you know, the last, like, I'd say 5 years or so really healing my relationship with food and healing a lot of my food fears and healing my food noise, and have just worked on that part of myself so much, I definitely am much more aware and would be much more hesitant to get involved with a partner who didn't have a good relationship with food, that didn't have like a similar perspective to food than I did. You know, I mean, I wouldn't want to be dating someone that was like, no, I'm not going to spend extra money on organic vegetables and fruits because it's too much extra money. I'd be like, no, I prioritize eating organic. If I was with someone that was complaining all the time about the extra money it costs to buy organic because they didn't prioritize it as much, like, it would just be a constant struggle. And I'm not saying there aren't struggles in relationships and people have things they have to overcome, but I don't know. I just think like food and what we consume is just such a huge part of our lives that I just think we need to be more aware of how differences in how we view those things can really affect our relationships, because it's something that affects our literally our everyday life. Like, what we consume is part of our everyday life, and that could go with people that maybe come from different cultures, or, you know, if somebody is really into fasting and somebody isn't, or somebody is like really into being vegan and somebody isn't, or something like that. Like, I just think those are things that we don't talk about enough when it comes to compatibility in relationships. But you know, it's, again, like, what we consume and having meals and things like that is a part of our everyday life, and you really need to look at compatibility in things that aren't just these big grand things like, are we going to have kids or are we not, which is an important thing, but like some of these like big grand things, and it can overshadow sometimes, like, okay, but like, what is our everyday life going to look like? And, you know, what we consume for food or what we don't consume for food, I think it's a huge part of our everyday lives. And if you're going to be in partnership with someone, I think it's really important that you at least figure out how you can be on the same page with someone. So I just don't think that's something we talk about enough. So another topic that I want to touch on might be a little controversial, and I love Pam. I do. I've been a fan of Pam like since back in the Baywatch days. Like, I love Pam, but one of the potential problems I see with the Pam and Liam relationship is Pam has had so many bad relationships, like bad relationships. She's not been great with picking guys. Again, I don't know that much about Liam's past relationships, so I'm gonna focus a little bit more on Pam in this, but Liam, generally speaking, seems like a non-controversial celebrity. You know, he is a famous movie star, but he does come across like a more kind of regular guy. But I do feel like there is this sense that people are thinking like, we want Pam Anderson to find love. Like, we want Pam to find a good guy who loves her, will be with her and treat her well. Like, I think a lot of us, especially people who are fans of hers, like, we're rooting for her to find that. You know, is that going to be Liam? I don't know. But, you know, because he tends to be like a non-problematic celebrity, I think a lot of people are thinking like, oh, this could be the good guy that she finds that actually loves her and treats her well. And I hope that for her. I genuinely do. Like, I don't know if they're a real couple or if they're not, but like, wish the best for both of them. I don't wish anything bad on either one of them. One of the things that I think women need to be aware of is if you have a history of picking the wrong men, being drawn to the wrong men, and this is not taking the responsibility off the men for being jerks, but just looking at yourself for a second, and that you've consistently been getting in relationships with men who don't treat you well, we can often convince ourselves that, oh, if we just found a guy that treated us well, then everything would be fixed, everything would be solved. And look, women do respond to how men show up. So finding a man who does treat you well can do a lot for you. It absolutely can. However, if you haven't healed the parts of you that were attracted to the men that treated you badly, you're never really fully going to be able to commit to the guy that treats you well until you heal that part of yourself. I do think that there's this fantasy that women build up in their head, especially if you've been in a lot of bad relationships, that the right guy will fix everything. And I'm not saying that being with a good man who treats you well can't be incredibly healing. It can be, but you still have to do the work on yourself. And oftentimes what happens is get that good man, and the most common one is that you don't feel like you deserve him. So unfortunately, sometimes you sabotage that, or he will feel boring sometimes. Like, he won't feel like exciting if you've always been in relationships with guys where there was a lot of drama or things like that. Like, it can vary depending on what your wound is that's been getting you into bad relationships. But you have to heal that. And you can heal that while you're in a relationship with a good man. You can. Like, it's not like you have to like break up with him and heal and then go back or whatever, something like that. You can heal while you're in a relationship, but it's still important to do the healing work, because unfortunately, if you have been drawn consistently to bad relationships, getting in a good one can be great. And I would never discourage anybody from being in a good relationship. But if you haven't healed the parts of yourself that were drawn to the bad relationship, you might end up doing something that could destroy the good relationship, because your nervous system isn't used to that. So you have to do that healing work yourself. It does seem like Pam has consistently gotten herself in relationships that were bad for her. Seems like from everything that I've heard about Pam, she seems to be putting Tommy Lee up on a pedestal still. I mean, he was not good to her. He was abusive to her and everything. And I mean, there probably are other layers to that. My initial read of Pam and why she's still hung up on Tommy Lee is because she has her kids with him. And my read of the situation is that Pam just loves her kids so much, which is understandable and very endearing. She loves her kids so much, and because her kids are part him, I think she's putting her relationship with him up on a pedestal because she loves her kids so much, which I think is very endearing. But I do think that the fact that she's kind of seems like she still puts that relationship up on a bit of a pedestal, even though we know that it was not a healthy relationship, could be a sign that she hasn't truly healed from that part of herself. And the right guy could come into her life, and I think we all hope that it does. I mean, I think, you know, we all hope that Pam finds love. But if she doesn't heal from that part of herself that was drawn to the bad relationship, if she does get into a relationship with a guy who treats her well, she very easily could sabotage that, because it's not what she's used to. But I just think it's something for women to be aware of. Like, if you're still hung up on the guy that was like unavailable, if you find a guy that's available, you might get turned off by him. And you got to notice that pattern, because it's very common for a lot of people to seek the thing that's unavailable to them. But if something is available to them, you're like not interested in it. Now look, anyone that's desperate, you're not going to be attracted to. Like, desperation is like repellent in a relationship. The only people that are attracted to desperate people are users and manipulators. Like, desperation is going to turn off anybody. There's often a misconception that people think, oh, well, this guy was available and I wasn't attracted to him, so I must only be attracted to unavailable guys. That's possible, and it's common. That's a very common dynamic, to be attracted to the unavailable and not be attracted to the available. However, you also have to keep in mind, was the available person, did they check off other boxes? Like, were they somebody who had other things going for them, or were you completely incompatible? You know, because if you were completely incompatible, even if they were available, you shouldn't be attracted to them anyway. And also, were they available or were they desperate? If someone was just available to you and you were turned off, then that might be something you need to work on. But if they were desperate and you were turned off, that's normal. We're all unattracted to desperation, unless you are somebody who wants to use and manipulate someone, so you need them to be desperate. Desperation is a turn off for everybody. So that's where I think we get into a weird thing where it's like, oh, well, this guy was available to you and you weren't attracted to him, so you must not like available men. When it's like, was he available or was he desperate? Because it's totally normal, and men and women are actually turned off by desperation. I mean, again, unless you're a user or manipulator, desperation is unappealing. You obviously want to heal from the parts of you that are only chasing after the unavailable people, and if somebody is just simply available to you, you find that to be a turnoff, you should heal from that. But it's normal to not be attracted to desperation. I think that needs clarification. There's too many times, and I think especially with women, we feel guilty that we're not attracted to the desperate guy, when it's like it's normal to not be attracted to somebody who's desperate. We all get turned off by someone who's desperate. We all want somebody who isn't needy and desperate for a relationship, unless your plan is to manipulate that person, in which case you need them to be needy and desperate. And one more thing that I want to touch on, and the delicate thing to talk about, because I am pro Pam and I want to see Pam succeed. I love her. I think she's great. I've been a fan of hers for a long time. So I don't want to sound like I'm criticizing her, but I do think that this is something that we need to touch on. When it comes to Pam and her no makeup phase, I do know that Pam's no makeup phase, I believe started because she lost her long-term makeup artist, and that it was kind of this like tribute to her to not wear makeup and stuff, which I respect. And Pam's decision to not, you know, wear a lot of makeup, I respect that decision. I don't think anybody should be required to or anything like that. So I don't judge her for that at all. And I don't know exactly like if Pam has ever claimed that she was not wearing any makeup at all or anything like that. However, it does seem to be this public perception that like Pam is makeup free. Pam's not wearing any makeup. Oh my God, it's Pam's bare face. She's not wearing any makeup and everything. I think we need to be a little bit more careful with that conversation, because if you actually look at Pam closely in some of her interviews and on some of her red carpet appearances and stuff, she is wearing makeup. It's light, it's subtle. She's not really wearing much, if anything, like in the way of eye makeup, which is why her eyes look a little bit washed out. I mean, she's still stunning, she's still gorgeous. I'm not shaming her look at all, but she's for sure wearing some kind of a base. She's wearing something that's making her skin glow, because she's got a glow that is not nature, it's makeup. And she's going subtle, and I don't judge her for that, but I just think we have to be very careful of pushing the whole she's all natural, she's all makeup free, because then you have people that see that and they're going makeup free, but they're going, oh my God, but I don't look like that. Like, what's wrong with me because I don't look like that makeup free? When it's like, well, because she's not going 100% makeup free. And look, if you know anything about being in front of the camera or being on a stage or anything like that, you know lights wash you out. Like, they absolutely wash you out big time. So that's why you tend to have to wear more makeup when you're on stage or in front of a camera or something like that, because a lot of lighting will wash you out. So I'm not judging it, I think that we need to be careful of pushing this, oh, she's not wearing any makeup at all, she's wearing some, and that's fine. And I don't know if she's ever claimed that she wasn't wearing anything at all. I'm not saying she's being deceptive, but I'm just seeing this trend of like people being so hell-bent on deceiving themselves into thinking that celebrities are natural or doing everything all natural, or just, you know, are just naturally perfect, and they're so hell-bent on believing that and get so angry when somebody points out that they're like, oh, the celebrity has had work done, or the celebrity is, you know, wearing this and they don't naturally look like that. And people just, I don't know why people are so hung up on believing the illusion when it comes to celebrities and their looks and their beauty and everything like that. Like, it's all smoke and mirrors. Even the people that are natural are still doing something. And again, I don't want to sound like I'm criticizing Pam at all, because I do love Pam, but you can tell in some of the interviews and stuff and the way her face is moving and things like that, I do believe that Pam probably has some work done. It's subtle, it's natural looking, but again, I do think we have to be careful of comparing ourselves, like our natural to her natural, because her natural isn't necessarily a regular person's natural. Again, I don't necessarily think that Pam has to cater to us necessarily as far as that goes, but I think we have to be careful with the narrative. And I also find it interesting, I mean, Pam has implants. That's part of what made her famous initially. There's a fake beauty to her that has made her famous. And you know, and her choice to go with less makeup, it's not no makeup, but less makeup, her choice. I don't judge her at all, like, for wanting to have a more natural look, but it is not 100% natural. I just find it strange that people are praising her so much for wearing they're praising her for wearing no makeup. She's not wearing no makeup, she's wearing less makeup. And they're praising her for that because for some reason we live in a society where it is more taboo to wear makeup, to color your hair, to wear fake nails, to have fake lashes, than it is for someone to get Botox, fillers, all these like jaw and like cheekbone surgeries and implants and fat transfers and lipo and BBLs, and like injections and surgeries are so normalized in society. And because you can't wipe them off at the end of the day, people think that that beauty is natural, because some people can't tell, they just think that that person looks that way naturally. But yet if you wear makeup or color your hair or fake nails or something, like just things that are just like temporary enhancements to your look that you can play around with and you can change tomorrow, and you don't have to inject anything or get anesthesia or cut yourself up like a piece of meat or something, like those things are now considered more taboo and like unnatural. But yet it's like, I don't wear any makeup, I don't have to wear any contour, but if you just had a surgeon contour your face, like you're not a natural beauty, you literally had a surgeon contour your face, and you're like, well, I can go without makeup. It's like, well, why is the makeup more taboo than actually having a surgeon just cut you up like a piece of meat? Like that just, I don't know, it just seems to me like our priorities as far as women's beauty and women's beauty standards are just so screwed up right now. I'm not putting this all on Pam, but like I do find it interesting that somebody who made her career famous with implants and who still has implants is now being touted as the queen of natural beauty, when, I mean, she is wearing some makeup, but she's wearing less makeup. And again, her choice, but how someone with implants is now considered a natural beauty is a little off. It's kind of a twisted perspective that we have, because surgeries have become so normalized and injectables and things like that have become so normalized, and we're like making just like temporary fun like beauty trends to play with as being taboo. And I personally think that that's the wrong way to go. Like, wear makeup, don't wear makeup. And even like I saw an interview, one of the interviews where they were asking Pam about makeup, and she says, you know, I might start wearing it again, I might not, I don't know. Like, and that's the beauty of makeup. Like, that's the beauty of choosing to wear makeup or not. You can choose to wear it, you can not. You can wipe it off at the end of the day or in the middle of the day, and you can redo it or not redo it or whatever. I mean, it's a very like non-committal beauty tool to play with. Whereas like when you're actually going and getting injectables and fillers and, you know, jawline things and buccal fat, whatever, like doing all this like surgeries and stuff, like that's a really serious invasive thing. But yet those women get considered natural beauties because it doesn't wash off at the end of the day. But yet playing with makeup is becoming so taboo because it's like unnatural. Again, I think our priorities are getting really screwed up as far as our society goes. So again, I love Pam. I always have. I've always been a fan of hers. But I don't think she's perfect. I don't think she's above criticism. But I do really like her. I do hope the best for her. You know, and I don't know that much about Liam Neeson, but I feel like, you know, I think a lot of people are rooting for him to be happy and find love. And if the two of them are together, they are a couple, I wish the best for both of them. I absolutely do. If this is just a PR couple that is just kind of putting on a show for us to sell tickets to movies, I hope people aren't too disappointed when, you know, they have their going their separate ways announcement or something like that. I do think that this is a couple that people are wanting to root for. I mean, if this is just the two of them having fun while they're promoting the movie, more power to them. If it is something more and does turn into something more power to them too. These are just a few topics that I thought, you know, came to my mind when I was trying to do some research about them as a couple, and I hope that some of these lessons are things that you can take into your everyday life so you can have a happier, healthier life and happier, healthier relationships. So yeah, if you have any thoughts on any of the topics I talked about in this video, or, you know, thoughts on Pam and Liam, or I have not seen the Naked Gun movie, I don't know if it's out yet or not as of filming this. If you have seen it or are excited to see it or anything, let me know. Or if you have any other video suggestions, let me know. Leave a comment in the comment section below. I love to hear from you, and I love your video suggestions. If you enjoyed this video and found it helpful, please give it a big thumbs up, and be sure you subscribe to my channel. Honestly, any engagement on this channel really does help to boost it in the algorithm so more people can get this message. If you would like to heal from your pick-me energy and you want to step into your own feminine power, I highly recommend you check out my guided journals, the Recovering Pick Me Girl guided journal and the Dark Feminine Energy guided journal. They're both available on Amazon. Links are in the description box below, along with links to all my social media accounts. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you join me next time.